We started out the week talking about the number one way people lose their own personal power is through their ego. And there's no better way for the ego to show itself than through holding on to anger or holding on to past. Over the years, we did many shows with people who showed us how anger set them back, how holding on to the past set them back.
And I can't forgive her, and I think about it every day. And I'm so angry because the damage is done.
And I blame each and every one of them, everyone that had anything to do with this.
I can't forgive him for what he did. Can't.
This is what I know for sure. I know that if you allow the past to define your present, that you never actually really get to live the life that you were meant to live, because you're always holding on to what was and always holding and defining yourself by what was or what should have been or what could have been. And one of the best lessons for me with this is learning that revenge is another way that the ego shows itself. When you think that you deserve to be treated a certain way, you think you deserve to have things a certain way, you think that you deserve, and other people have done you wrong, instead of, again, living from the true self.
Tip number 1, learn to identify what situations or circumstances end up setting you off. What makes you mad? Because until you identify what situations really just take you to level 12, you're never going to be able to control it. Once you identify the situations or circumstances that make you super pissed or upset or lose control, then you can try to not be or get yourself in those situations. Avoidance. But avoidance is only so good, because if it's like other dudes looking at your girl, right, it makes you crazy jealous and just infuriated with rage, well, you can't just not go out of the house. So you kind of need to move on to step number 2. Identify the anger or feeling as soon as it starts, because it doesn't normally, right? When we get upset, it builds, right? It's not something that just all of a sudden, bang, you're in this just crazy emotional state. It starts at like a 1 and gradually, now it can gradually increase fast and escalate quickly, but if you can identify that feeling, the feeling that you get when you start to get intensely angry or upset, then you can deal with it. If you can identify the feeling when it first starts, you can do things to help you not escalate. And really, it's this escalation that gets things just way out of hand and out of control. Remember, it's ultimately about control. You controlling your emotions, all right? You can't necessarily control how you react to certain things and the fact that things get you upset, but you can control the escalation of that anger.
How do you let go of anger and resentment? I have so much anger toward my ex that I can't shake, and I think it's unhealthy for me. This is a big question.
It's hugely unhealthy.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right, and your instincts are right. And the fact that you're looking for the answer means you'll find it and you will follow through. The question is, will you do it now or you wait a while and keep suffering? I think it was Nelson Mandela said, resentment is like, drinking poison and expecting your enemy to die. It's like, it just doesn't work that way.
That's great.
When people say, I need to forgive, you have to have a belief system that you're better than somebody else, that somebody harmed you. Most people are doing the best they can. Human beings have a need to feel significant. They have a need to feel certain. And out of feeling insignificant, uncertain, they sometimes do stupid things. It takes 2 to tango. Somebody once said, I think Spinoza said, no matter how thin you slice it, there's always 2 sides. And even in my own experience, when a relationship doesn't work, it isn't that they're horrible. This person may have done something that hurt you, but they didn't do it to hurt you. They did it because they felt insecure. They did it because they were starving for love. They did it because they didn't feel like they were important enough to you. They did it for a variety of reasons. You don't have to know, but you need to move on. And instead of forgiving is like you're better than, just think about this. Forgive yourself for being so caught up in this, because the anger is hurting you, it's not hurting them.
One way that we allow ourselves to be our puppet is by giving away our power. Imagine that I'm a superhero and I have my power source, and my power source is right here inside me. And let's say someone comes along and they start to say disrespectful things to me or hurtful things to me. If someone's going to be disrespectful and hurtful or mean in some way, And if this was my power source, why in the world would I take my power source and hand it over to that person? That doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? In fact, if I'm in a tough situation and someone's attempting to take my power, if anything, I want to hold on to my power. I want to be in control of my power. But we do frequently. Someone says or does something we don't like our cartoon world. We imagine they were going to say it one way, but the real world is they say it another way, and we take our power and we hand it to somebody. Now, if our power was something physical or tangible that we could see and touch, I'm not sure we would be so quick in handing it away. This technique is such a genuinely powerful technique. I was teaching it, and one time a guy came back into my group, and he said, I wouldn't be here this week if it wasn't for what you taught us about giving away our power a couple weeks ago. He said, I was outside my house, and I saw a guy who was in a rival gang of mine, and this guy stabbed me several years ago. And he said, I saw him, he was by himself, and I could have got him. So I went into my house, I went in my closet, I pulled out my gun, I cocked my gun. And as soon as I cocked my gun, he said, I saw your face, Doc. I'm not a big fan of people seeing my face when they're cocking a gun. But we laughed, and I said, go ahead, tell me what happened. He said, I saw your face, and I remembered what you said about giving away my power. And I thought, if I go out there and I take him out, which I can do, that's fine for that moment, but then I'll go to jail for the rest of my life. And I like my freedom. I'm tired of being in prison. I want to be out. And if I go kill him, I will essentially give him my power so that he can determine what the rest of my life's going to be. And I thought to myself, I'm not giving him my power. I put my gun down. I went in my house. I closed the door. That understanding that technique not only saved that man's life who he would have killed, but it saved a man in my group who chose to save his own life by not letting someone else control him, by not letting what happened in the past control him, by holding on to his power instead of giving it away.
See, if you're driving in the Coimbatore streets, you have to avoid the medians which are placed in odd places. You have to avoid bad drivers. You have to avoid drunken men crossing the street, children crossing the street, all kinds of things. But when you're driving in Coimbatore street, do you have to avoid the moon? I'm asking, do you have to avoid the moon? No, because the moon is not on the street, isn't it? So similarly, right now are you angry? No? Then why should you avoid it? There's no need to avoid it. It is just that you think anger is an entity. Anger is not an entity. You become angry. You become angry. Anger is not sitting somewhere and you go hit it. There is no such thing. You become angry. When you become angry, is it pleasant for you or unpleasant for you? Unpleasant for you. Unpleasant for others for sure, unpleasant for yourself also. Today, medical science proves to you, when you're angry, you're actually poisoning your system. You know, we have always known this, but today chemical tests clearly show you that you're actually poisoning your system, generating poison in the system by being angry. So, why would you want to poison yourself? It is not a conscious act. You're poisoning yourself, you're causing unpleasantness to yourself only because your mind is not taking instructions from you, isn't it? It is not taking instructions from you. If it was taking instructions from you, you would have said blissfulness, isn't it? You wouldn't say anger. But now when you want to be peaceful, it is getting angry because it is not taking instructions from you. So if your mind is not taking instructions from you, you have to pay a little more attention to it. Why is it not taking instructions from you? If you understand this, you don't have to avoid anger, because anger is not sitting there and getting at you. You are becoming angry, you are becoming unhappy, you are becoming miserable. These things are happening to you essentially because you have not done anything to take your faculties under your control. It is happening accidentally. just by chance. If outside situations are good, you are also good. If outside situations are bad, you're also bad. That is not how human life should be. Human life should be like this. If I am good, everything around me becomes good. This should be the reality, isn't it? Right now, if things around me are whichever way, I will become that way. No. Human consciousness should create situations. Right now, situations are creating human consciousness. That's not the right way to shape human life.
I don't like it when you say you don't want to play with me.
When I'm mad, my brain can get a headache and it can start hurting.
Your blood keeps pumping because you're like really mad. And you start to get sweaty because you're getting really, really mad. And then when you start getting really mad, you turn red. It's kind of like if you had a jar and then the jar would be your brain and then you put glitter in the jar and that would be how you would feel like. If you shook up the jar and the glitter went everywhere, that would be how your mind looks.
When I get angry, I feel it in my heart.
The amygdala really reacts, but the prefrontal cortex tries to keep it down.
When I feel like I want to, get really angry and yell, I just sometimes, take deep breaths.
First you find a place where you can be alone, then you find some way to relax and calm down.
When I need to calm down, I take deep breaths.
I breathe in through my nose. Sometimes I close my eyes or just take deep breaths. It's calming down, it's not moving. It's slowing down and then it stops. And the heart pumps slow and then it goes into your brain. It's like all the sparkles are at the bottom of your brain.
My brain slows down and then I feel more calm and then I'm ready to speak to that person.
It doesn't take a lot to make me angry. What about you? Did some schmuck cut you off on the freeway? Maybe your boyfriend accidentally shredded that birthday card your grandma sent you. So you freak out, you scream maybe, a vein pops out of your forehead. It happens to everyone. But did you know that anger is actually affecting your physical health? Hey, anger is inevitable, okay? You can't just stop getting angry. Even the world's most sedate person has uttered a few choice words in traffic. Will that expletive fest really make you feel better? Will punching a wall really calm you down? The answer is no. Sorry, but recent studies have shown that angry reactions are pretty harmful to your physical health. A Yale University study found that people with anger management issues tend to get sick more often. Their anger actually weakens their immune system. The Journal of the National Medical Association